I'm Andrew, and I'm setting out to make better videos for diesel enthusiasts. Follow along as I review products, do how-tos, and share my personal trucks here on Just Diesels.
All right, guys, so I'm pretty excited about this one. So today, we're gonna be making a beautiful symphony. And what I mean by that is we're gonna be straight piping the second gen. And more importantly, what we're gonna be doing is, obviously, aside from showing you guys some before and after footage of how it sounds, I'm gonna be comparing expensive exhaust to cheap exhaust, because I've never had an expensive exhaust. We're gonna throw one on this thing, see how it sounds. Now, I have always done the cheap kits because I always thought pipe is pipe, right? It doesn't matter who makes it, doesn't matter what it costs, a tube is a tube, and they're all gonna sound the same. But for this truck, I thought I would try something different, and I thought I'd make a video out of it. So I actually went out and purchased a stainless exhaust kit. It's a Jamo system from NRE Performance. So thank you for him for setting this up for me. Now, that system, I paid full pop for, and I have never spent this much on an exhaust kit. And what I'm really curious about is whether or not this kit is actually gonna perform better than the cheaper aluminized diamond die exhaust that I've run on all my other trucks. So we're gonna put the system on. I'm gonna kind of show you guys how that process is. I'll talk to you guys, about the install, how easy it goes compared to everything else. But before that, let's see what this truck sounds like stock. Now, because this truck is a non-emissions truck, that means it has no catalytic converter from the factory. It just has a muffler. So the factory exhaust pipe actually sounds pretty solid. It's got good turbo whistle. At wide open throttle, it's definitely pretty loud outside. Inside, it's still pretty quiet, but it's just kind of missing that like choppy, aggressive note that I really wanted out of the truck. So that's why I wanted to straight pipe it. Obviously, if you're daily driving your truck every single day, you're hauling really heavy, straight pipe's probably not the way to go, but since this is kind of just a fun project, I'm gonna straight pipe the thing because I love how these second gen trucks sound. So this Jamo system out of the box looks like pretty much every other exhaust I've gotten out of the box. They're basically just a bunch of tubes shoved in a powerboard box. There's not really a lot of padding, so pretty common for stuff to get dented. One of mine was dented upon arrival, but easy enough to straighten out using some pliers, so no big deal there. Now, one thing to note is this system has no instructions, and that's also very, very typical. So the diamond die systems, typically those will just have like a map of which pipe goes where. This one had nothing, but it's pretty dang straightforward to figure out exactly where everything goes.
So basically what I have to do is lay everything out on the ground. This is gonna be your downpipe section, right? You know that because of the bend in there and the adapter there. This is gonna be the longest straight section. And then this is what I like to call the compatibility piece. So this is usually the piece in most of these systems that you'll cut, whether you have a short bed, long bed, regular cab, whatever else. There's going to be a piece that you can cut, and that can either be this piece or this piece, but that's going to be your compatibility section. This is going to be the muffler replacement section. So this is where a muffler would go. And then you'll have your over axle piece and then your exit, your tailpipe piece. So that's kind of how these systems go together.
Now, one unique thing about this exhaust and a lot of other than, higher end ones is that they're gonna have the hangers welded onto the exhaust. So you'll notice this one has all the hangers pre-TIG welded onto the exhaust. And then the other thing on there is that you'll notice that the clamps on the system are actually a lot nicer. This is gonna be what's separating the nice from the not so nice exhaust. So a diamond-die system is going to be a lap joint where they're fitting together, one sliding into the other one, just like this. But the hangers are not welded onto the exhaust, and all of the clamps are gonna be just a standard, compression clamp style. So it's gonna be a U-bolt with a top piece, and they bolt together, and in the process of bolting together, they squish the pipe. So what that means is that once you do that compression of the pipe, it's never coming apart again. You're permanently bending it together. So if you need to make adjustments or pull it off one day, not easy to do. The nicer systems are gonna come with these clamps that don't actually compress the pipe completely. So they're gonna hold it together, but they're not gonna dent it. So that is one thing that's worth doing. Even on the diamond-die systems, what I'll do is just order the clamps off eBay, because you can just get these lap style clamps. Those are super easy to buy, and they let you do that without compressing the pipe. So I'll just buy that in the diamond-die system, and it'll be way cheaper. But I'm gonna throw this thing on and walk you guys through the process. So I didn't film this part because it's kind of hard to film, but I have removed the back section of the exhaust. I always start with the back section first. So I'll make a cut right near the transfer case, and then you basically slide the exhaust back towards the back of the truck to free it from that cross member, and then slide it forward and out. I like to put a jack underneath the back of the truck as well, just to get the axle as far away from the frame as possible. That's always been my method for getting the factory exhaust out in as few pieces as possible. So that way you're not sitting there trying to undo these slip fittings, especially since they have these little pins in them. Just a nice clean cut with a Sawzall. You're able to put it back on if you ever want to, and it makes it easier to pull out of the truck. So as a tip for anyone doing a 24 valve exhaust, the downpipe is extremely hard to access the bolts that are holding it on. So what I use is a super long extension to get up there from the bottom of the truck with an impact and break those free. Obviously, if your truck is rusted, it's going to be a lot harder. Mine thankfully broke free no problem because this truck is pretty rust free, but that's my little tip on how to get that off, because it's a total pain. The next piece you're going to want to buy is an exhaust hanger removal tool. Yes, there is actually a tool for this, and it makes the job so much easier. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to push on the hanger, and it's going to push it out through the other side of the rubber hanger on the frame of the truck. I cannot explain how much easier this is. It is cheap, I'll link it down below. So much easier than trying to pry it out of there with a screwdriver. I was so thrilled when I found out that these existed. I've done enough exhausts on trucks that this has been well worth the money spent. They're super cheap anyway, regardless. Now I will say that this Jamo did go together better than most of the cheaper systems that I've had. So typically on the aluminized diamond-die systems, there's a little bit of fiddling, this and that and the other thing. Sometimes stuff doesn't perfectly line up. The Jamo system, everything lined up spot on, perfect. I had to make one cut on the compatibility section, super easy, just like normal, and everything else lined up beautifully. It is kind of cool to have the pre-welded clamps, although one thing that is a little bit of a pain is that when you're putting the tailpipe section on and everything's all together, getting everything to line up with those pre-welded clamps is not easy. Whereas with the diamond die, where it's the separate clamps that clamp around the exhaust at any point, it's a lot easier to put things together and kind of finagle them into place and then tighten them down. The one thing about that though is that I always have settling issues. So the diamond die exhaust, when I put those on, they'll always settle. With the Jamo, no settling, it's in the truck, that's it, it's perfect. Everything was lined up from day one, it's still lined up now. So with that out of the way, we've got everything installed. Let's go see how this thing sounds. My mic's already hooked up to the truck, but give you guys a little taste of what it sounds like. So here we are going to the tunnel.
You are not sneaking up on anybody in this thing now. Woo! But I gotta say, man, does that thing sound good. These Cummins trucks, when you straight pipe them, they just sound like angry tractors, and I love it. So definitely happy I did this. You know, if this is a daily driver, I'd probably put a muffler on it, but because of what this truck is and how I enjoy it, it's fine. I love this thing. So stoked on how this thing turned out. Definitely happy with the exhaust. And as for sound, I really can't say there's any difference between stainless and aluminized. They sound identical. Like a straight pipe Cummins just sounds like a straight pipe Cummins. 5 and 4 inch exhaust, that's a big difference. So 5 inch is gonna have a deeper note, a little bit, I don't want to say raspier, but just definitely a deeper note and a little bit more chop to it than a 4 inch. But on this truck, I really didn't want to run a bigger tip. I thought the 4 inch pipe to a 5 inch tip just looked right on this truck to look proportionate. If I did a 5 inch with a 6 inch tip, I felt like it was too much for like kind of the classic look on this truck. So that was the reason I went with 4 inch on this truck, even though 5 inch I do think sounds better. You've heard the before, you've heard the after, but is this system worth it? So like I said, this is the most I've ever spent on an exhaust. Typically I'm used to spending somewhere between like $250, $300. This one was like the $500 mark, right? So not cheap. And is that actually worth it in the end? This is all gonna come down to your personal preference. In my personal opinion, not quite, right? So with like suspension, for example, if you buy a $300 leveling kit versus a $5,000 leveling kit, there's a difference, right? Usually USA made parts, you're going to have way better damping, way better shock quality, way better ride. With an exhaust system, the big difference is sound and durability. So between the cheap and expensive kits, I'm not really sure that there's a huge difference in sound, right? A 4 inch pipe is a 4 inch pipe. You can argue till the cows come home of aluminized versus stainless. I don't really think they sound that different. A lot of people will say otherwise, but I think it's a very, very similar sound. Maybe if you have two identical trucks next to each other, you can tell a difference. The biggest thing is going to be longevity. And that really becomes an argument between aluminized and stainless. So if you live somewhere where there are harsh weather conditions, Ohio, Michigan, things like that, 100% go stainless. Let's take a look at the exhaust on my first gen. The exhaust on my first gen is an aluminized diamond die system that's been on since about 2013, 2014. Now this is the cheapest system for these trucks. And as you'll notice, the system has not held up as well as a stainless system would. So I live in Southern California. This truck has never driven in the rain. It gets stored inside. As you can see, there's still rust on this system. All the clamps are rusted, even though I painted them. And the downpipe section of the exhaust is starting to rust as well, even though it's aluminized. So if you were in somewhere with salt, things like that, this exhaust would be totally rusted out. So that's worthwhile to upgrade to a stainless system. Now, in terms of fit, I will say that this system, the diamond die system on my OBS, the diamond die system on my third gen, they all took a little bit of massaging, right? Things didn't quite go together perfectly without a little bit of massaging of this clamp going here, this tube getting bent this way. And that's one thing to be said for the pre-welded hangers on the nicer system. So when you have someone like this Jamo exhaust where the hangers are pre-welded onto the exhaust, everything is going to go together absolutely perfect. There's no question of if this pipe's rotated too much this way, it's going to push this one out of the way in the back, whatever else.
Everything is gonna be perfectly lined up from front to back. It's gonna make the whole install a lot easier. So I will say the Jamo system did install really, really well. If you're someone that's done exhaust before though, and you understand how to tighten things, right? Usually I like to work, I'll put the entire system together loose and then start tightening from the engine all the way back to the exhaust. Not a huge deal to go with the cheaper systems. You can still figure it out, but I will say, kudos to Jamo for building a very, very nice fitting system. It's tucked up against the rear fender of the truck. It doesn't hang down low. The pipe is at a really nice angle, right? It's not sticking out the back bumper. It's nicely angled at the side rocker panel. I mean, everything went together really, really smooth and really nice. So is it worth spending money on the nice stainless exhaust from the high-end companies? I don't know, that's up to you. I might not do it again. I will definitely only go stainless from this point forward, seeing how the aluminized exhaust has held up on the first gen. But in terms of the cheaper companies like Diamond Eye versus the super nice companies like FlowPro, MBRP, Jamo, it's hard to say which one's worth it. It really depends on your personal preference. I might not jump up at that level again because pipe is pipe. But curious to see what you guys think. Hopefully you guys like the sound of the truck. I'm absolutely in love with this thing. So thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.